Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this virtual celebration of International Women's Day. My name is Catherine Kitts, Councillor for Ward 19, Cumberland, and I have the pleasure of being your Master of Ceremony this morning.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this virtual celebration of International Women's Day. My name is Catherine Kitts, and I have the pleasure of being your Master of Ceremony this morning.
Unfortunately, due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, we are not able to gather in person at City Hall for the traditional International Women's Day breakfast reception that so many of us have enjoyed over the years. This year, we are delivering this event to you virtually, in your homes or offices, directly from the Mayor's boardroom in the beautiful Heritage Building on Elgin Street in downtown Ottawa. It is important to acknowledge that Ottawa is located on unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. I would like to honor the land and the peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation whose ancestors have lived on this territory for millennia and whose culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land.
It's important to acknowledge that Ottawa is located on unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. I'd like to honor the land and the people of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation, whose ancestors have lived on this territory for millennia.
This year, we have an incredibly special guest of honor and an exceptional treat for you from a talented young woman at the close of today's celebration. In a few moments, we will hear from Councillor Theresa Kavanaugh, Council Liaison for Women and Gender Equity, and following that, we will enjoy an armchair discussion between His Worship Jim Watson, Mayor of the City of Ottawa, and Dr. Vera Etches, Chief Medical Officer of Health for Ottawa Public Health. So stay tuned. But first, it is with great pleasure that I invite Mayor Watson to deliver some opening remarks.
But first, it's with great pleasure that I invite Mayor Watson to deliver some opening remarks.
Good morning, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. I want to thank everyone for joining us virtually this morning as we celebrate International Women's Day 2021.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining us virtually this morning as we celebrate International Women's Day 2021.
This is, of course, different than our celebrations of past years, but whether you're joining us via Rogers TV, on the City's or my Facebook page, or through the City's YouTube channel, I hope you all enjoyed today's event. My thanks to Councillor Theresa Kavanaugh, the City's Council Liaison for Women and Gender Equity, for being with us today, as well as all of my Council colleagues for joining us, including our newest Councillor, Catherine Kitts from Cumberland. We're pleased to have acting as our MC today. I also want to acknowledge members of City Council and elected representatives, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and members of the City's senior leadership team for joining us today as well.
My thanks to everyone involved in organizing and putting this event together. Your efforts are much appreciated.
We're fortunate to have Dr. Vera Etches with us as this morning's guest speaker. Dr. Etches, as you know, has provided excellent leadership to our entire community throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and her strong voice, concern for our residents, and advocacy for our city have been truly, truly exceptional.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Etches for her incredible work and her outstanding dedication and commitment to our residents.
While many of us know Dr. Etches for her work during the pandemic, most will not know the rest of her story, and today I'm happy that she'll share some of her impressive background with us all. The theme for this year's celebration is Choose to Challenge.
The theme for this year's celebration is Choose to Challenge.
This is a call to action to call out women and gender bias and inequality so that we can all help create an inclusive world.
Here in Ottawa, we're fortunate to have incredible female leadership, as well as exceptional female staff working on the COVID-19 response front lines, who are out there in our community making a huge impact on residents.
Women working right across our city as doctors, nurses, paramedics, OC Transpo operators, personal support workers, grocery store clerks, police and bylaw officers, firefighters, I could go on and on, working to help us remain safe and to provide these essential services during this difficult time. To all the women who are parents and who have been working hard while their children are at home, a lot more than usual, we know these times aren't always easy and that you are stretching yourself thin trying to manage it all.
Each and every one of you deserve a huge thank you for all that you do.
Not just throughout the pandemic, but every single day of the year. The COVID-19 pandemic has also shown us that pandemics impact women and girls disproportionately. Evidence shows existing gender gaps in access to social services are heightened, putting women at a higher risk of isolation, food insecurity, loss of income and livelihood, and gender-based violence.
This year, International Women's Day is a good opportunity to bring attention to this issue.
International Women's Day takes place annually on March 8th and is a global event celebrating the economic, political, cultural, and social achievements of women while marking a call for action for accelerating gender parity.
There has been recent growing awareness surrounding the issue of women and gender equity, not only in our cities and governments, but also in our families and within our close relationships as well.
It's promising to see that with every debate and discussion, we're seeing advancements and a cultural change all around us. Councillor Kavanaugh will be speaking to the city's Women and Gender Equity Strategy in her remarks, and I also wanted to acknowledge the great work of our staff on this initiative. The strategy, which has the goal of ensuring that the city's services, strategies, and plans integrate a women and gender lens and promote women and gender equity, will be presented at the Community and Protective Services Committee later this month and at City Council in April.
We recognize that women and gender inequities have ripple effects on the well-being and development of our whole community. Women and gender equity are key to building vibrant and inclusive communities and to creating a city for all residents.
It will ensure that the city's workforce is qualified and reflective of the diverse population it serves. It will also create a respectful and inclusive workplace that is equitable to all employees. I'm pleased to announce today that the city has signed the Electricity Human Resources Canada Leadership Accord on gender diversity.
I'm pleased to announce today that the city has signed the Electricity Human Resources Canada Leadership Accord on gender diversity.
Electricity Human Resources Canada is a national not-for-profit organization that conducts research and develops tools to support the human resource challenges and opportunities in the electricity and renewable sectors. This accord is a public commitment by the City of Ottawa to promote gender diversity within our organization.
We're also working to ensure that women are fully supported and are provided with equal opportunities to grow and develop to their full potential.
We look forward to taking action on the commitments of the Accord, which align with our commitments of the Women and Gender Equity Strategy, as well as our Diversity Inclusion Corporate Plan. Finally, today is an opportunity for all of us to pay tribute to inspiring women everywhere who have made a difference in the lives of others, and to celebrate the women who have led and continue to lead the way towards an equal and just society.
Right here in Ottawa and all around the world, women have helped to bring positive change to so many different facets of life. In business, in medicine, in politics, in education, in law, in arts and in sports.
We are also fortunate to have many incredible female leaders in our city. You should all be very, very proud of your accomplishments, not just today, but every single day in the year. And I urge everyone to continue to lead by example and inspire a whole new generation of women to become future leaders in our community, our city, our country, and the world. While I hope to see you all in person for next year's event, I want to wish all of you a very happy International Women's Day.
I want to wish all of you a happy International Women's Day.
Thank you very much for joining us. Merci pour votre participation. À la prochaine.
Thank you, Your Worship. Merci, votre honneur. It is now my pleasure to invite Councillor Theresa Kavanaugh, Council Liaison for Women and Gender Equity, to deliver her remarks.
It's now my pleasure to invite Councillor Theresa Kavanaugh, Council Liaison for Women and Gender Equity, to deliver her remarks. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mayor's Annual International Women's Day celebration virtual edition.
As the City Council Liaison for Women and Gender Equity, it is my honor to be here and to wish everyone a happy International Women's Day. I'm always very happy to be able to co-host with the Mayor, and I want to thank his office and the many people who organized and contributed to this important event. Thank you.
My thanks to Councillor Kitts for being our MC today. And I'd like to make a very warm welcome to our keynote speaker, Dr. Vera Etches, Ottawa's Medical Officer of Health. I also want to recognize my colleagues and all members of the Council Sponsors Group. I'd like to thank them for their work in developing the city's first women and gender equity strategy.
This strategy is being implemented so that everyone, regardless of their gender, age, abilities, religion, race, or income, can fully participate in all aspects of life in Ottawa. I want to recognize the incredible work of our Women and Gender Equity Specialist, Sausan Al-Rafayeh. I want to thank everyone in the organization who is working to move forward on our strategy.
Mayor Watson has announced that the City of Ottawa has signed the Electricity Human Resources Canada Leadership Accord on gender diversity. This is a milestone for the City of Ottawa and an important public commitment to gender equity within the corporation.
I want to thank the leadership of our council and our mayor for their work and commitment on the initiatives of bringing our workforce that really represents Canada's people. I am happy to share some of the many other positive steps being taken to ensure that the City of Ottawa's service strategies, plans, integrate a women's and gender equity lens and promote women and gender equity. We started building this strategy with public engagement sessions in the summer of 2019, comprehensive public and staff consultations, a major public engagement forum, a consultation through our online platform, Engage Ottawa, provided important direction for the strategy. Based on the findings, the strategy was drafted, including a 2-year strategic framework for Phase 1, 2021-2022. The strategy will be presented to Council for consideration in the coming weeks. We are committed to incorporating equity, diversity, and inclusion in all the way we deliver our services. It is important to note that a proposal by Councillor King, my colleague, to establish an anti-racism secretariat at the City of Ottawa was accepted and adopted in the city's 2020 budget. The secretariat ensures that we apply anti-racism lens to the policies of our city that we develop.
Last July, Yusra Osman was hired as the city's anti-racism specialist. He was hired to develop the city's first anti-racism strategy. She supports anti-racism initiatives throughout the organization and is working across the corporation on barriers affecting racialized women. The City of Ottawa is committed to providing all employees with a work environment that's free from harassment.
The Office of the City Clerk will continue to seek the guidance of community groups and collaborate with the Women and Gender Equity Strategy on issues related to safety and community well-being. I am happy to share that staff is applying the equity and inclusion lens, including a gender lens, as part of the city's official plan. This will ensure the needs of women, men, and gender diverse persons will be considered in the way Ottawa is designed and built for the future. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge. The theme reminds us that we can all choose to challenge and call out women and gender bias and inequity.
We can all choose to seek out and celebrate women's achievements. Collectively, we can all help create a women and gender equal world.
Today, in the context of this terrible global pandemic, we celebrate women who choose to challenge, because from challenge comes change. It's been a challenging year. So for many of us in the community, I want to take this opportunity to recognize the women in organizations across the city who are helping us through this crisis.
We are celebrating our women, first responders, our health and childcare professionals, our senior leaders, and all the women who keep us healthy, safe, and productive. I also want to thank all the women teachers and homeschool teachers, support workers, and service providers as well.
We are all in this together, and we all have responsibility to advance women and gender equity and equity in all our communities, here and at the city. Women and gender equity will be reached when each one of us in each sector becomes committed and accountable. Thank you, and I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to the conversation this morning with Mayor Watson and our own Dr. Vera Etches.
Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, Councillor. It is now my pleasure to invite Mayor Watson to lead us in an engaging discussion with Dr. Vera Etches and an insightful look at her extraordinary career and work.
It's now my pleasure to invite Mayor Watson to lead us in an engaging discussion with Dr. Vera Etches and an insightful look at her extraordinary career and work.
Good morning and welcome, Dr. Etches, to our broadcast on International Women's Day.
Bonjour, Mayor.
Before we get into some of the questions about your medical career and the work that you've done prior to becoming a medical officer of health here in Ottawa, maybe tell us a little bit about your running career. I guess you're a runner, and how is that going? Are you training for a specific race of any kind?
Well, I'd have to say I'm not at my peak running performance, but I am celebrating that I haven't stopped this year. Last winter I stopped in the winter, and I'm feeling that need to look after myself. I hope everyone can find, all women can find something that they enjoy doing to look after themselves, because we can't care for others unless we look after ourselves. For me, I have to use a calendar though. I have to mark the dates on the calendar to make sure I'm doing it. If there's too many blank days, that's motivation to get back out there.
So where do you find the time? Because you're working, long hours dealing with the pandemic. Do you have to discipline yourself to actually make sure you don't let those important things slide by?
I have to set realistic goals. So realistically, I'm aiming for twice a week, and that means usually I can get out once on the weekend and once in an evening. And that's the thing, realistic goals are useful for everyone. You can't expect that you're going to be able to do something every day when things are stressful, but it's important for our mental health.
And now, do you have a particular route? You live in the Lower Town area, a particular route you follow? You try to make it different each run, because sometimes it can get a little monotonous, I think, You know,
we are so fortunate to have trails in our city and pathways. So I try to always use one of the loops, like going down the canal and back up along the river, because when you go out in one direction, you're forced to come back. And that's another way of making sure I get it done.
You could perhaps talk a bit about your history. Where were you born? When did you come to Ottawa? Your education, things like that. Well, I grew up in a small village in northern BC. I had the benefit of having parents who were GPs there.
And so when I was younger, my parents were role models for me. There's no question.
Were they both doctors?
They're both family doctors, but I feel one of the most important things they showed me with their actions was how the health of the community isn't just about the hospital visits or the clinic. It was the hiking trails that my father built and the co-op daycare that my mom started. You know, these things are city responsibilities too, aren't they? You know, social services and the trails in the city, they matter for our health. And so that really was a foundation for me. Of course, I thought about medicine because of them, but I chose public health because it is about keeping people healthy. De prévenir les maladies, la promotion de la santé, ça c'est important pour moi.
So did you always know that you wanted to go into medicine? Was that, growing up as a young girl in northern BC because of your parents' influence, was that the track that you set yourself on early on?
I always knew it was a possibility. It was something, and it was really some time actually with public health nurses in Malawi, in Africa, that reinforced for me this was the kind of work I wanted to do. The public health nurses were tackling things like HIV/AIDS, and they were inspiring in how they were working with the community. They knew the community. I felt that was the kind of workforce I wanted to be part of.
So you must have role models that have helped you in your career. Do you have any in particular that you'd like to share with us?
I really have benefited from excellent supervisors over the years. So Dr. Penny Sutcliffe, the medical officer of health in Sudbury, she showed me how public health is not just about telling people to not smoke or eat your vegetables, but we need to look at the roots of what makes people healthy and keep people well. And I've really found that new approach to public health beneficial. The other role model is Dr. Isra Levy, so the former medical officer of health here in Ottawa. And one of the key things he's shown me is how working with elected officials and the city can really be a way to promote the health of the population because of the way we build the city and how that influences health.
I didn't realize you knew Dr. Levy. That's great. I'm not sure if you ever knew or met Dr. Sheila Basserer. She worked with me, and she was one of my role models. She was very much responsible for the Smoke-Free Ontario Act, and sadly she passed away of cancer. Did you have a chance to know Sheila?
I did know her from a distance, but she is an example to me of communicating in a crisis. Yes. And I very much valued her transparency, and I think that's been one of the principles I've tried to use in this pandemic.
Now, you're probably asked to speak to a lot of schools and colleges and universities. When people come up to you and ask for your advice in terms of a career in medicine, what kind of advice do you give them based on your successes and failures in your career? Because we all have the good and the bad that goes with our career. What kind of advice would you give, particularly a young woman who's thinking of going into medicine?
Well, I think that it is always good to follow what you're passionate about, and there are ways to improve health in medicine, for sure, but also outside of medicine. There are many different roles health professionals can take to make a difference in their community. I did have an advisor in my residency who said, Vera, sometimes you're so passionate about something, you need to just also pay attention to the others around you and leaving enough space for others' perspectives to come through. And I think about that still today in terms of when you feel strongly about an aspect of justice or what is right, that is a good foundation that can help you. I've found that has been important in this pandemic in responding. I needed to have the strength of my convictions to be able to say, you know, we need to stay home now, or we need to get vaccines to people over 80. But there's no one right way to do things, and so being able to step back and hear others' voices, that's also been really important. And I think for me, another message to young people is that the field is always changing. The health challenges we face change, and we need new ideas. We need young people's contributions to shift how we approach them.
So you're married, you've got 2 kids. You've got a very time-consuming job, an important job for the community. What about the work-life balance? Is it a challenge for you? Oh yes, it is now. Now my boys are hoping that I'll change jobs soon. They told me the other day, when are you going to change jobs, Mom? But they understand at the same time. They understand that it's important to protect people's health.
I have to thank my husband, right? My partner is really doing all of the picking children up from school, dropping them off, homeschooling, making sure we have food to eat, clean clothes. And that's a harder job. I do feel that way, that for those who are parenting full-time, people on their own without supports for that, it takes a lot of energy. And I'm not my best parenting self when I'm tired. We need to really be continuing to keep that self-care in mind to be able to get through this.
Now, do your kids, are they old enough they see you on TV and think you're a star? What do they see, what do they say when they see you doing interviews, on Zoom, or turn the TV on and there's Mom on the TV screen?
I don't think they've really seen me because they are younger, but they understand I am trying to work on getting rid of COVID, and I think that's something we all contribute to. They hopefully are, realizing when they wear a mask at school, they're part of the solution. It's all of us together.
So what do you do in your free time? I would imagine you don't have much free time now. You talked about running, but what else do you do to relax when you're at home, for example? Well, I don't have much free time, but in the evening sometimes I like to read recipes.
So I like to read recipes. I'm actually almost never going to make them, but I love to dream and think about when I could do more cooking. And sometimes I'm able to take away like a little tip or something that will make my very plain dishes more tasty. In the spring, I'm looking forward to getting back outside in the garden. We don't have a backyard, so I grow some vegetables in the front yard, and it's always a battle with the squirrels, right? So I'm learning, what do the squirrels eat? What can I grow and win the battle?
You mentioned that. I see these beautiful tulips, which are the official flower of Ottawa, and every year the ambassador from the Netherlands is kind enough to give me a bag of tulip bulbs, and I've just given up planting them because the first day they're in there, I don't put any, a screening, and they're all gone, or I end up in the spring with one straggling tulip. It looks quite sad in my front yard. So what do you do? Do you have takeout very often? Do you go to you can now go to restaurants with limited capacity, but do you have a favorite takeout kind of food that you like to bring in on a Friday night or a Saturday?
Yeah, in our family, we absolutely are keeping things simple. We can't be ambitious, so we need to be realistic with our cooking. And so we do have the benefit of living close to the Byward Market, and so there's takeout options. My family likes the India Cafe and their curries. That's something that helps us out sometimes.
Do you have any hobbies aside from running, obviously, but any pastimes that you enjoy that help you relax? Because you've got a really pressure-filled job. Like, you're on call basically 24 hours a day, and you're in a situation where the spotlight is on you all the time. What do you do to try to relax? Because you talked about your own physical and mental health. You can't be on the job, on alert 24 hours a day. You've got to have something to distract you from the pressures of being the medical officer of health.
Yeah, I think the importance is to keep a sense of humor, and so my partner again tries to help, introducing comedies on Netflix and that kind of thing. The work is really taking up most of my time, but in terms of what we all need support from others, and to be able to reach out to friends virtually is another important aspect.
A lot of the frontline workers dealing with the pandemic are in fact women, personal support workers, nurses, and others in the field. What kind of advice do you give them? Because they're under a lot of the same pressures, not at the same extent obviously as you, because you're the face of Ottawa Public Health, but your colleagues who are public health nurses or people who are in the hospital system and long-term care homes. What advice would you give them to try to put everything in perspective? Because they take a lot of the stress home with them. I think of when my parents were in a long-term care home, and the sadness aspect of the job, you're always saying goodbye to people who are passing away, and that has to have an emotional toll. And with the pandemic, it's just brought even more grief and sorrow to those long-term care homes, but more importantly to their employees.
Yes, first of all, I need to say thank you to all of the essential workers, and I want to underline that we can't get through this alone. We do need to support each other. It actually makes a difference to stay connected, even if it's by texting, phone calls. We are, needing to look after ourselves so that we can look after others. I think this has been something that's not easy to keep in mind, but again, blocking time for dinner with your family, or blocking time for that physical activity, it actually will enable us to keep getting through, and there will be an end in sight.
There's, one of the challenges we all face is, the uncertainty about this virus, because, it's morphed into other variants and so on. How do you as a professional keep up to date with all of the different news that's coming from, whether it's pharmaceutical companies or the World Health Organization or the Government of Canada, and how do you process that to make sure that the right information gets out to the public to help protect as many lives as possible?
Ottawa Public Health is made up of an extremely dedicated team of many people. We have people who read the scientific literature and are keeping on top of that. And then we also need to use the tools we have to hear from the public, the people in Ottawa. What are their questions? What do they need to know right now? So our communications and community engagement work has been really important to better understand, are we answering the questions that people have? Are we being clear, providing the information people need? And so it is an ongoing process. I think we have many different tools. Not everyone is going to access information in the same way, but I do rely on the team to provide the latest evidence.
There's, it's interesting, a question earlier you talked about the balance of having to take in many different communities, not just the healthcare community, but also the business community. You've been on a number of Zoom calls with me and others from the small business community, because you can't always take sort of this 100%, it's only about healthcare. You've got to understand the health of the economy as well, and the mental health challenge that so many people are facing when they've mortgaged their house to the hilt to keep their doors open of their small business. What advice do you give those small business women and men who are struggling now, even with a partial reopening, which has been greeted with good news, but also with challenges of the numbers slowly going back up? What kind of a message are you trying to get out to that community, and where can they turn for help during this stressful time in their lives?
Certainly, I want people to know that there is always hope. There will be an end. We can get through this. It is significantly challenging for many, and so I would encourage people to reach out to the city if they need assistance, because the city can explain what emergency financial support is available, and there are programs to support people. Also, on the mental health service side, if someone is in crisis, they're feeling it's difficult to keep going, there are supports available too. Often people don't know where to reach out, and so the city is a good place to turn as well. You know, Ottawa Public Health's website always has the resources listed for mental health services, which sometimes it's difficult for someone in crisis to connect themselves, and so, you know, again, would say don't hesitate to reach out for someone you're concerned about as well, and assist them to make that link.
Your staff have done a remarkable job in social media. It gets kudos all the time and retweets and lots of, they have a lot of fun with it, even though it's a serious situation. It's an effective way, you know, of using humor to get messages out. What are some of the other highlights? You know, it's hard to describe a pandemic as having highlights, but the positive things that have come out of the pandemic is one of the things I think of is most people really didn't know what public health did. You know, you sort of see your signature on a restaurant license and maybe the vaccination clinic, but maybe just, you know, explain a little bit more about, you know, what you've been really proud of your team has done, and some of the other aspects of public health that we sometimes take for granted and don't really know what you do, you know, aside from this tremendous work that you're doing on the pandemic.
So I mentioned communications, you mentioned communications, and the less visible side of that is more around community engagement. And so I'm very proud of the team in the ways they have gone right to neighborhoods facing a greater burden of COVID, and even door to door, in partnership with community leaders, faith leaders, community associations. I really think this has built stronger connections to neighborhoods in the city where there may be less advantage, and it's made our response better and more effective, and I think this is important for our public health approach going forward. Again, we have many partners across the city that have been involved in this work: the Community and Social Services Department, the Human Needs Task Force, our community health centers, the Ottawa Health Team, Équipe Santé Ottawa. So it's that partnership is so encouraging that people have come together and really worked hard to meet the needs. I think, of course, we're very fortunate. You have to celebrate the existence of vaccines, more than one vaccine. It does give us hope. It's happened faster than I thought it would, based on the scientific technicalities required. And I know it's frustrating that we don't have it as quickly as we want in the volumes we want, but that is what we're working on, is as soon as vaccine arrives to be able to get it out. And again, I'm proud of the team for continuously pivoting to the next challenge in the pandemic, because it has been relentless.
Now, you report to a board of directors, and my colleague Keith Egli is the chair of the board. How has that relationship changed during the pandemic? Because before, you know, there was not a lot of media coverage of Board of Health meetings. Now, all of a sudden, it's an important spotlight. How does the board assist you, and what's the relationship you have with the board in terms of the pandemic? Has it changed since we saw the virus arrive here a year ago this month?
I definitely have more frequent conversations with my boss, the chair of the Board of Health, Councillor Keith Egli. I think the board has played an important role in keeping us focused on the bigger picture, because we're involved in the day-to-day response and problem solving, and the board is there to say what's most important. And our strategy before the pandemic was to promote mental health and address substance use. And they've helped keep that as a priority through this response. As well, you know, they've underlined for us the community engagement, and they've helped us with communications.
Now, what are your dreams and wishes for this year? Your dreams and wishes for the citizens of Ottawa? What's your dream for the rest of the year? Well, I think that this year it will be possible for us to actually get back together again with our loved ones. I think that will be possible. At least I hope so.
I really do look forward to the time when people can be with more of their close friends and family in gatherings without having to be this distance apart, and so it's coming, and I really want to thank everyone in Ottawa who's been doing the hard work of keeping that distance. It has taken a toll, but we know we will get through.
And we'll just end on one little funny story. I think it was your Twitter feed that talked about you were so frazzled one day that you ended up going out. Was it without your pants and you had a jacket on and you realized, I don't have pants?
Yes.
Tell us that story.
Well, I'm walking distance from City Halls, and my family, I try to sometimes leave them something in the morning because I'm not going to see them. So I was busy in the dark, kind of trying to set something up for my boys, and then was a little distracted because I was rushing, trying to get to City Hall to talk to Rob Snow, and I was in a rush, so I put on my jacket. I had my tights on and a long shirt, but no skirt. And I didn't notice until I unzipped my jacket in City Hall in front of security, and I was like, oh dear, that was shocking to me. But it also told me, like, this is the kind of situation we're in, where we're under stress, and we have to laugh. Like, we have to recognize, the craziness. And so I did share it on Twitter because I thought, I'm not alone in how people are feeling stressed in the pandemic, and it is good to recognize and laugh when we can.
If you can't laugh at yourself, is the old expression. But I think people can relate to that, because it's like leaving your coffee on the top of a car, and you get so frazzled, and you're trying to multitask, and it becomes a real challenge. So I just want to thank you very much for the work that you've done pre-COVID, during COVID, and what the great work you'll do in the future. And your team is remarkable to work with, very, very efficient and very compassionate and passionate about their job. And this had the potential to have lots of silos, the hospitals and public health in the city. But I think generally there's been a great sense of cooperation amongst the various groups and agencies, because we're in this together, and we've got to get through it together. So thank you very much. Merci beaucoup pour votre dévouement et votre
Thank you for your great work for the City of Ottawa.
dans la ville d'Ottawa, and for acting as an inspiration, particularly for women in the healthcare field and young women and girls that want to explore the opportunity of medicine, and in particular, as you chose, public health medicine. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Etches, for joining us, and again, happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Watson and Dr. Etches, for such an engaging conversation. Merci,
Thank you, Mayor Watson and Dr. Etches, for such an engaging conversation.
You truly are an inspiration, Dr. Etches, and we wish you ongoing success in your career as you continue to lead our city safely through the pandemic. Today, as we celebrate International Women's Day, a global celebration of all aspects of women's achievements, I am confident that our next performance will inspire you to take action and to continue having these important universal conversations.
Today, as we celebrate International Women's Day, a global celebration of all aspects of women's achievements, I'm confident that our next performance will inspire you to action, and to continue having these important universal conversations.
Zara Mariah Willow is a multidisciplinary artist, a poet, writer, and storyteller. Her work explores themes such as vulnerability, connectivity, and healing. Zara is passionate about using her art to create space conducive to community building, and hopes to continue to share her experience and creativity with the world. Poetess
Zara Maria Willow is a multidisciplinary artist, a poet, a writer, and a storyteller. Her work explores themes such as vulnerability, connectivity, and healing. Zara is passionate about using her art to create space conducive to community building, and hopes to continue to share her experience and creativity with the world.
Zara has written a poem, a letter to little girls everywhere, specifically for today's event. I have no doubt that you will enjoy her performance, complemented by a montage of photos of women living and working in the Ottawa community.
Zara has written a poem, a letter to little girls everywhere, specifically for today's event. I have no doubt that you will enjoy her performance, complemented by a montage of photos of women and working in Ottawa and its community.
When I was younger, I would wonder, when do little girls become things no longer worth protecting? I'd watch women put on their armor and manicured smiles and face the world with love. I'd wonder why, when they were left all on their own to survive. Little did I know that women are like seeds. We plant ourselves in the earth. With patience and care, we rise. We grow roots and bloom fearlessly under the moon. We become fragrant at the break of dawn. We persist, we adapt, we carry on.
Today, I recite this poem to make certain that you know, wherever you are, if the sun has ever touched your skin, little girl, you are loved. Neither I nor anyone else can define for you what it means to be a woman, though I will share with you some of the lessons I've learned. Womanhood is a privilege, heavily weighted.
It is to be both brave and loving, to have thick skin soft enough to hold our loved ones close to us when they believe that they are alone. A woman's embrace is a place to call home. Empathy is a gift worth giving. Moments will arise where we feel as though stones are stuck at the center of our chest. Stay calm. Close your eyes and remember that breaths are meant to be taken deeply. Sometimes a deep breath is all we need to remember that though life may not always be easy, we are never alone. This life is made up of all kinds of different feelings, though how you feel about yourself is the most important one of them all. People will attempt to tell you stories about who you are or shouldn't be. Silence those voices swiftly. Learn to listen closely to the beating of your own heart. Echoes of the women who came before you, marching on their way to break down doors and hold them wide open for you, so you may have room to be. So be authentically you. Be vulnerable. Be gentle in the face of a world unaccustomed to kindness without expectation. Let go of everyone else's expectations of you. Smile when you want to. Cry when you need to. Dream as much as you dare to, for it is because of the dreamers that you were born to be free.
Ever be afraid to play. Amplify the voice in your heart that yells dance and sing and share and laugh and create and connect. Because joy has the power to heal. And we are all in desperate need of healing.
Never believe that anything in this life is outside of your reach. Stretch as far and freely as you need. Spread your wings and soar. Be sure of your ability to do what has never been done before. Imagine, expand, feed your desire to know. Realize that every challenge is an opportunity to grow. If anyone ever tries to tell you what your role is, tell them we are doctors, activists, and entrepreneurs. We are caregivers, astronauts, and chefs.
We are presidents, peacemakers, and creators. We are mothers, daughters, and friends.
We are lovers of the greatest kind because we have learnt to embrace self-love even when loving ourselves is not always allowed. And if you do not yet know who you are or how to be, I invite you to chase after your greatest fears. You just might find the best part of yourself there. And remember, as the sun graces your skin, little girls everywhere, you are loved.
Thank you, Zara, for that dynamic and passionate performance.
Thank you, Zara, for that dynamic and passionate performance.
International Women's Day provides an opportunity to pay tribute to inspiring women everywhere who have made a difference in the lives of others.
International Women's Day provides an opportunity to pay tribute to inspiring women everywhere who have made a difference in the lives of others.
Thank you all for joining us today and for inspiring women leaders of the future.
Thank you all for joining us today and for inspiring women leaders of the future.
Due to the length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress.
When we ride into the fire, so thirsty from the drought, I see the sun on the horizon, hear the angels singing now.